on household and family in 5 tribal societies of South Gujarat. It's the same study which Professor Kumar has introduced, and he has, along with the introduction, he has dealt with the methodology, how we collected data and how we analyze. So I will not be going into that. Simply, I will put my findings or opinion findings and see your observation, comments, and improvements to enrich our research. So I will be discussing that's the 5 household dimension in 5 tribes, and also attempt to analyze differences and similarities between these 5 tribes. Okay, and also discuss developmental process in household. Development process is a cyclic process. I will be discussing more how household changes over a period of time or over the generation. Before going further, some preliminary observation. Family has been studied by many perspectives and many approaches also. There is a historical approach, structural approach. But basically, 3 types of research has done on families. And A.R. Desai has mentioned in this book with the chart. And one is analytic approach, and that is include differentiation between family, household, and domestic unit. And domestic unit or domestic groups has been used in some other anthropologists also, like Jack Gooding, Higgins. Then typological approach, that is nuclear family, joint family, extended family, etc. And the third one is processual approach. It's a relation-based approach, how in a household or a family relationship happen from direct relation to onward. As far as Gujarat tribes are concerned, only YVSNR has studied Bees of Ratnamar, and he has done Bees of Ratnamar study, and he has mentioned joint family. However, Professor A.M. Shah disagreed with him, and he is mentioned. However, he studied in central Gujarat for caste societies, and he has mentioned household. And his household is inspired by Jack Gooding's studies of domestic group. Okay, I have modified Professor A.M. Shah's approach to study the tribal society, of course with some modification, like Khandariya marriages or Gharjamani marriages and some others also. And also I have included, because we have data from genealogical chart over 6 generations, so I have also included grandparental family or grandparents or grandsons or granddaughters. One thing is very important here. We differentiate between the household and family. That's already discussed on the basis of chulha, or the person sharing food from same hearth or kitchen, like ghar or makan. This is all normal thing, like we all tribes are patrilineal, means they transfer their property through the parents' line or father's line. Patronymy, they name their children through the father's name. Local residence, except in the case of Gharjamani families. And this term is differentiated between the terms, like Basawa and Chaudhary known as they know Gharjamani, and Kamil, Kupna and Wali called Khandariya. After some time, basically how household developed. After some time of son's marriage, he settled a new household near to his father's household, in some cases also in agriculture field, whenever there is no place. So first the chula is differentiated, eating together is differentiated, and meantime the agricultural processes are going together. Say they grow and they cultivate together. But after some time, the fission of household totally happened after the agricultural land also partitioned between the families. So, there are number of households in between this process. As far as tribal household and family are concerned, household is the nucleus of social organization of tribe, And as we go forward, like family, lineage, internet, clan, their network is extended. So that is a finding way to the genealogy. And these household compositions depend upon certain aspects like age at marriage. Because tribals married early, so we have the possibilities of married son, married father, and married son living together. So this and the concept of the I have already discussed. And these are the data Professor Kumar has already discussed, and I am now going to. This is the numerical composition of household. In this, we have collected a household on the basis of person living in one household. Like this is one person household. In the Basawa, Chaudhary, Kamini, Tukna, Wali, and this is together. So together we have only 19 households living single person. And this is 9 male and 10 female. And in this is the least amount of household come in this category. And maximum amount of household, that is 218 household, is composed of 4 person in household. And then, but this is not regarding population. If we come to population, there is 107 of population consists of 6 members. So along the tribe, we have also some pattern like Basawa. We have found Basawa 12-member family and 10-member family, but in not Chaudhries. And same onward. Size-wise population distribution. We have on the basis of per person living in household, we have classified this household on the basis of small household, medium household, and large household. So, small and medium household is preceded by a very large household. And individual, this is small household found in Basawa, and medium household in Chaudhries, and large household in Kokanas. HH means household, and P means persons living together. And in the bracket, we have the percentage of that. This is number, this is percentage. Then we came to simple household. Simple household is consist of a single married person and his unmarried children or other combinations. Like we have also discussed single person. Then this is a fraternal household, means unmarried brother living together. There are only 2 cases in Basawas where unmarried brothers living together. And these are the very less because of certain circumstances. And the 2 households have a different consequences, because in one household living by 2 unmarried brother, their father has Hajmai marriage, and he has come from nearby village, Kevri village, 3 kilometers from that village. And after death of his wife, but their mother's wife, the father moved to his native village. Because he got some land there, because of every dam the irrigation is there, so he moved with 2 sons there, and the 2 sons remained there. And they manage their household, and they also operate their cultivation. And it is very important, they are not alone, because this village and this household is their maternal household, means their mother's side. Their mamas, maternal uncles are there. In fact, they are one of their maternal uncles living in single household together. So they manage all this, and it's very near. So their father also come and go between 2 villages. This is 3 kilometers from. And then we have a husband and wife household. That is 84 cases. And husband and wife household, we have different. Like 19 single family husband and 84 husband and wife households, and in these 7 are young, 16 are middle age, and 61 are old age. And they all, except their cases like 3 in young age and 1 in 16, 1 in middle age and 3 in old age, all have children. And all their children are married and living in a separate household. But different enabling or enabling with them or in agriculture field. So it is not that they are very much independent alone. They have their support system with them because of their beginning, because of their clan, their relatives are living together and they manage their affairs. Then we give the complex household of 5 types. In this, complex household means two simple households together and other relatives. And here, the predominant population or households are married father, mother living with one married son, at least one married son. This is the very last population, two household in one married son, then another married son is added, then 23. The two married sons together living 23. This is the atypical household, and this is also giving an example by Professor Shah. This atypical household doesn't continue much further because this is the last case. Like married brothers, his wife and unmarried sister living. This is the very least case because the unmarried sister will marry and move away. So they remain become another household. And these are the geological chart we made on the basis of household information. And these are married son. This is married son living together, living separately. This circle is represent living separately. And this is the divorce without proper divorce, separated without proper divorce. Then is the household parental unit with one married son. One married son and other unmarried children. And these are 2 or more married sons. They have different phases in all these households because first, the relationship between the father and son can be differentiated into 3 phases of development. In the first phase, father as a dominant figure doesn't allow the son to have much voice, or son works under the father in most cases. It is the starting point of that household, means married father, mother and one married son. This is a starting phase and consists of new married son, his wife and parental unit, which is represented in the table. And in the second phase, father and son almost on equal footing. They both work together in the agriculture field and they are managing their agriculture household as well as cultivation. This phase mostly commonly found when the married son becomes a father. When a married son becomes father, then his status is raised. Also, he is considered equal to the father. This phase is shown in some table and is composed by 1/3 household. In the third phase, where the father acts as an only advisor, he just bring his status lower and his son become higher, and the most decision executed by the son but advised by father. This is a more advanced phase. Gradual change happens in the father and son relationship after a few years of son's marriage, where son becomes the father of the more than one child. Father is starting to give respect to son, and later on, son is assuming charge of the head of the household. They are separate household. And the household of parental unit with one married daughter, of course with Kandariya marriage, because of Bhajmai family. Here we find that different probabilities, father, mother, married daughter and Kandariya husband, compose 2 household form, one in the south, one in Dhananjay, and with unmarried children, they are unmarried children, means daughters, unmarried children living, 21 household, and father, mother and daughters, children only, means daughters have not living to them. This is one case, because in this case the daughter, after the daughter married, daughter has gone away. So the daughter's children living with their grandparents, but daughter is not living. Then the widow mother, married daughter, elderly husband and their married children. The widow father, daughter and unmarried children. These are the cases. and these are represented by the tables. This is represented by death of the Khandaria husband, then daughter remain in this order. Household of parent will be with one married daughter and other unmarried children. Similarly, as we discussed in the son's household, then another unmarried children also live. Household of parental unit with both son and daughter married and living together. Son brings wife and daughter for daughter they bring Khandaria living together. This is the extreme case because this is not very much household point in our study. Only five household, two in Kamil, one in Pukuna, two are in total form. We have not found in Basawa and Chaudhary. So these are the extreme conditions. These all depend upon the agricultural land. If a father has a large amount of agricultural land, then he will also bring Ghar Jamai for his daughter and also bring daughter-in-law for his son. So that is extreme cases. Before going to further, I will discuss here interpersonal relationship in household consists of parental unit and married daughter with their Khandaria husband or Ghar Jamai husband. Khandaria son-in-law is built as a supervisor of land for the initial period, thus just a manager or manager of the cultivation, and is below of the status of son. But gradually his status becomes similar to the son. In all three of these households, father-in-law is the formal head of the household and the son-in-law is supposed to have subordinate position. Although patronymic goes with the Khandaria husband, but his status is not near to son. During the first few years, son-in-law may move out to his own territory because this is uncertainty. Few years, he can go to another house, as a Khandaria. He may be went to his native place and married to another. So first few years, uncertainties are there. So his status is not very much near to son. So first few years, Khandaria arrangement law is a kind of temporary time. After the spending considerable time in the household, and considerable time means depend upon person to person. Some informant has said that in the case of 5 years, some say after the birth of his child, first child. So son-in-law becomes the more of family member of that household. Gradually, father-in-law tends to share the responsibility apart from cultivation of managing the household with son-in-law. His status now becomes similar to son of the household. In all such cases, relationship between the father-in-law and son-in-law process gradually in the three phases, like we have discussed in the son case we discussed here. In the first phase, where the father-in-law is dominant figure, does not allow the son-in-law to have much voice. In this phase, son-in-law is act as a mere supervisor of cultivation. And in the second phase, where father and son-in-law work almost equal footing and make the managing household, distribute household work, in such cases, son-in-law does some extra works also, apart from cultivation. The phase is most commonly found when son-in-law becomes father and attain a more important role in managing household. Where father-in-law is, in the third phase, the father-in-law acts as an advisor to the son-in-law for managing household matter. This is more advanced stage from phase 2. The gradual changes in the happen relationship between the father-in-law and son-in-law. At the phase, father-in-law begins to give respect to son-in-law. This happens when at the stage of son-in-law's life when he has more than one children. It is interesting to observe the son-in-law, contrary to son, never assume the head of the household. In all our study, we have never found the son-in-law position or called as a head of the household. If father-in-law is not there, then the daughter will be considered as the head of the household. So son-in-law is not considered head of the household till he is living with father-in-law. If he make his own household, then he will be, then only in the village he will be considered as lower to daughter. This happened in the stage of son-in-law's life when he has more than one child. It is interesting how, as son-in-law is an outsider to household, he gets some difficulty during the initial years within his wife's household. He has to adjust not only with his newly wed wife, who is residing in her parental household but also with parent-in-laws and other brothers and sister-in-laws. He has to show his loyalty to two fronts, to wife and to in-laws and others, brother or sister-in-laws. One of the wife and other parents-in-law. He has avoidance relationship with mother-in-law, and in this wife, the daughter of the household acts more as a bridge between the two. That will be I will be discussing the son-in-law and mother-in-law relationship. Then we move to households of grandparental unit with a married granddaughter. This is the I added this. This is not considered by Serenja, so I added this grandparental unit. We have found certain some households where grandparents are living with the married grandsons and married granddaughter. So these are granddaughters living together with grandparental unit. They are less very much specified number. So we have grandparents, grandfather, grandmother, their married son and his wife, one unmarried granddaughter, one married granddaughter, unmarried husband and children. Second is grandmother is dead, so grandfather is his married daughter, and this all the combinations. This all represented by the geological chart. This is a male, female, then married relationship, and this is more 32 household with married grandson. So it all depends on the agriculture that they have. Then this move. We have Basava, Chaudhary, Gamet, Kupan and Mati all have this, but in grandmother case only Basava. We don't have in the Wali, Kupna and Gamets. So this is the difference. So now I come to concluding observations of my presentation. Household is one of the several dimensions of the family, and it's a very important dimension of the family, but it is studied by in the tribal context. However, it is considered by central Gujarat as also tool, but not in tribal context. It has like its own structure, its own life. It remains structural unit because elements keep replacing and maintaining. It is not necessary for every household to follow all the phases that I have discussed here, but the phases are there. So that is but represented also different process type of tribe. There are several types of household among the tribes for a single member unit to large one comprising of patriarch belonging to 3 generations and their wives. In all 5 tribes, medium size and simple household predominate over the large and complex households. The very large households are very few among the tribes, just 1.3%. The simple household constitutes of 54% and complex household constitutes 45%. Now, however, the complex household less in number, but they consist more population, more person living together. So the both households are important, simple as well as complex household. Basava had the maximum number of simple household, and however Chaudhary has the least number. And it is important to note that both the tribes living together. We have considered these 2 tribes living together in the 3 villages of Akaskari, Ambapur and Kharpur. But the social structure dimension is different in the 2 tribes. So in contrast to this, the case of complex house is situated in in all tribes, some kind of composition have more than others. In all tribes, like co-residence of husband, wife, and unmarried children is very much high, and it is followed by residence of parental unit with one married son together. The second type is parental unit with married daughter and unmarried husband. That is very important. That is not found in the caste-based societies so generally. However, it is found in some lower caste, but it is not possible. Both types of residence together, 64.3%. While some kinship composition are very less, like we have found only 19 single member household. Some kinship composition are very rare. Only two households of fraternal household we have, or unmarried brother living together. I have discussed here the Sava households. Only one household consists of two married brothers sharing same household. It is in the tribal we don't find married brother living together. So this is the case. Only one household. Only 4 father and unmarried children household are limited to Putnas and Gandhi. However, mother with unmarried children are more. So father is more prone to remarriage. Remarriage, or what we call serial monogamy, is very prominent after 1 year. Further, some kinship composition are absent in South Gujarat tribes. Like we don't find brother-sister household together. Similarly, there is absence of any household having 2 or more married daughters living together. We found one married son living together, but we don't find married daughter living together. These are the concluding observations. Thank you.
The first terms also may not happen, but it does this stuff. We don't call it incest. You see, you must read Baudelaires' work, the Marxist anthropologist. There's an article where he discusses about this. Why certain types of marriages which were otherwise permitted to take place. He brings in a kind of demographic studies. Certain types of preferential marriages require certain numbers. That's the number of people above. And if the critical number falls below that, it could be because of a calamity or could be many other demographic factors. Then these kinds of marriages take place. So that's where he tries to reiterate what Morgan said. Affinity changes faster, consanguinity changes slower. So you keep that in mind, because that's one thing is important, because you can refer Baudelaires' work where he tries to bring out how studies have established what Morgan was talking about. Though Morgan was criticized by the Brown and other states, but that is, he tried to establish how they are right. And this is the second point I thought we must look at, because since you are detailing looking at because whether we use household as a dimension, or because nucleated households or nuclear families, that we must distinguish, because some people can say that they are by and large nuclear families or extended families. Then household, you can say there could be similarities if they are nucleated with the nuclear family. Otherwise, if it's an extended family, then you talk in terms of, in fact, some of them may not be residing together, but they still have that kind of relationship. Because rituals, annually they can dance together, things like that. Not Chula may be one of the characteristics. I don't need to tell you because there are a lot of studies on this. I just want to just view these points and then open to
It's quite good presentation. I have a few suggestions. So unless you take note of the drivers, rate of drivers, it is remaining incomplete to understand the family dynamics.
separation.
Yeah. So the possibility separation is one thing and divorce is another. And when you talk of institution, any institution is identified only when there is a punishment for the deviants. So you need to say, take note of how many deviants are identified in a particular village, in which tribe is more frequent. This implies, for example, in Saura tribe in Odisha, government wanted to have their children in school, and there was a tendency by instruction by government to help children education. And the families were counseled, but then it was not possible because the Langia Saura family is so volatile. They run after how to get a wife or how to get a husband, because divorce is frequent. And because divorce is frequent, the children education was affected. So that's how, if you do not take account of the divorce or separation, it is not possible to see. In essence, the other way around is that how stability is a family institution, that can be identified. And as Godlier's statement is already, I wanted to tell this, and it's already stated this one. Fine. But then the ratio has to be identified. Matrimonial, the illustrity of the consanguineal bond and family. Thank you.
Dividing tribal family into two types, family and household. Then that is a suitable categorization or not. That I am fine with this, I have no issue, but then so far as theorization is concerned, there are debates.
Yes.
That is it sufficient, that the two categories are sufficient or not, or there are levels. Complete jointness to complete what you call household.
Also, yes.
There are levels of jointness. And what are the levels of jointness? And how decisions are made. Think what happens when there is a court case of inheriting property.
Okay.
You will inherit property depending upon what level of relations you have. Court will not ask you questions whether you are joint family or nuclear family. Court will ask you at what level of relationship you are and who makes decisions. In all practical purposes also, in all decision making purposes also, question you are asked at what level of relationship you are. Saga bhaiyo cho, kakana bhaiyo cho, kutumbi cho. These questions are asked. So structurally dividing them into two parts may not provide all the fine elements of analysis that we have. And you can rethink on these issues for next time.
Yes.
So this is fine with me, I have no issue with this. But all practical issues,
Yes.
legal issues, inheritance issues are decided by the pattern of relationship or jointness of relationship or nearness and farness of relationship that you have.
I'm going to discuss inheritance pattern of all tribes in my next.
Not marital pattern.
In
When we study this, what are the practical implications of our study? Will it be helpful in court case? Will it be helpful in decision making? Will it be helpful in whether somebody should stay with or not stay without? That these types of decisions are made by nearness or farness of relationship. And unless you consider those things, this becomes more an academic exercise and less of practical use. I have seen many court cases of inheritance where questions are asked. તમે સગા દીકરા છો તો તમને મળે. તમને ખંડાળ લાવ્યા છો જમીન ના મળે. If you are bought in ખંડાળ, you may not get land legally. He gives you land, that is another matter. So what level of relationship you have matters more than what structure you are staying in.
Thank you.
Continuing what Vidit Bhai is saying, whether you have taken the land is a major variable for the entire study or not. In the entire study, land holding.
No, land holding, we are working on that. We have not covered that. Like I said, that ethnographic part is not covered.
Okay,
We are
okay.
still on that.
Because land is because see, it is a very policy level implication as far as the tribal land holding is concerned and the type of family that you are talking.
Yes.
In 2003 and 4, the latest BPL survey we had in entire India and some extension in 2006 and 7. Now what is happened today, there are 26 lakhs tribals are BPL family. Now because during that time there are lot of this family fragmentation had not taken place. So there are many more number of BPL families in the tribal area, but unfortunately because of this system, family householding system, their name has never entered into this thing. So suppose one family has a 10 acre of land and it has a genealogy and divided and there are say around 8 to 9 this thing, so that fellow will get a really bigger kind of a this thing.
Yes.
And now top of it, the interesting thing, the policy level implication, that is what I am more interested in. I mean, definitely we will be looking into it. That in 2011, government of Gujarat has abolished the Tukda Act. Tukda Act means there is a law as far as the tribal land is concerned, that if you are holding a small size of land, less than 1 acre, you cannot sell it out, because if you sell it out, then you will lose the livelihood. So that in BJP government they have abolished, and because of that abolish, there are a lot of outsider has started purchasing that is. So there is some kind of landlessness that has taken place. Our data also shows, but it is not showing the picture clearly because of this kind of a thing. So I think that this is a very interesting kind of thing that has a policy level implication for the family. I mean, whatever the policy that is going to be decided by the government in the near future. That is what my, this is not this thing, but I just thought that.
Yeah, theoretically, I was thinking, say, to me, family means based on two principles. One is two lines, one is parental and marital.
Yes.
Minimum 3 individuals are necessary.
Yes.
Either adopted or breeded. Now, that means after marriage, it's not forming the family. It is in the making of the family. Family is the making process. Now, when the family is in the making process, there is a chance of two options of our seniors. Say, wife has reached menopause, there is no possibility of getting a child. So therefore, the option is only adoption. For a young, they can beget and also adopt. This means a family in the making process has got two options, and options are different for the young and for the seniors. Now there is a possibility, since he started saying that proper teenage has stuck to my mind, what happens to those who, when somebody has adopted, socially, not legally, as stated, because community recognizes that somebody has been adopted as a child just before death of the husband. So he becomes he is coped into a family, and that fulfills that particular small time period. The family has been formed, which was family in the making process of completed formation of the family when adoption is made. So there is a possibility it might affect the inheritance process, because somebody would be trying, let there be no adoption so that the brother will get. Somebody might say, no, he has to get it, say, adoption so that that will be named. There is a possibility.
Yes,
Within the family there is a politics.
yes, this is correct politically, but in the tribal areas where I have studied, I have found there is no adoption. Adoption, they don't adopt. Either they are.
It's a good thing, because you can also bring it up.
No,
There is no adoption?
No,
Not in Gujarat tribal area, but
out in
say social fatherhood.
Yeah, social fatherhood.
Social fatherhood. Who is father of the child? And whose property will he adopt?
Compound family is there. Compound family is
At the time of, suppose that a woman has 5 husbands, and whose child is this? At that point of time, there is social father. So one accepts that I am the father of this child, and child will adopt his property. So at theoretical level, this is very important. You may not have case in Gujarat right, but at theoretical level, this is very important.
Thank you.
See, there are a lot of issues I can personally discuss with you. I would also suggest I can send the email address of my colleague, Professor Dr. George Tharakam. He is the only person in India in oncology working on kinship studies. He is an oncologist. George Tharakam. Tharakam is a very good person, because for his thesis I helped him also. And because you must read while doing this Edmund Leach's work.
Yeah.
Especially you read his, the rethinking anthropology, the first chapter, where he talks about affiliation and how patrilineal, matrilineal that we talked about. He says these are all, he adopts the approach of topology, that is what he calls geometry of rubber sheet. If you plot things with respect to one side, it appears like that. when you are talking about family, you are talking about family from all perspectives. One in terms of rituals, another in terms of functions, another in terms of property, another in terms of inheritance, succession, and divorces or separations, and the role of the community leaders or the chiefs and other elders. What kind of thing, who negotiates, how negotiations take place. All these are part of, because marriage negotiations as a part of family, because there are disputes they bring in. And social recognition is important there. Your courts and other things, they say there is a practice there, that practice will have to be taken there. So you need to incorporate all this. When you are bringing out your ethnographic, I think you must bring all this. Because I worked on teaching quite some time back.
Yes,
So I could tell them. It's anyway, thank you very much. It is a wonderful session. We are still late for tea, but I think we should come back, have a short tea and come
There
back.
is a
Thank you
possibility.
very
I
much.
have read something as ritual kinship. Whether do you include ritual kinship as a part of fictitious kinship or it is different?
No, it is different.
Yeah, that you need to explain that. There is a possibility that when the lineage is expanding in the geographical area, it may expand to cover the entire village or it may even go beyond the village. Now whether we need to highlight on village exogamy or lineage exogamy. If it is village exogamy, how it is different from the lineage exogamy and how is the compromise. And in South India, there is a term, Baba, which refers to mother's brother, which is a potential husband of the niece. This also there is a cross-cousin marriage.
Mother's brothers or sisters' daughters, elder sisters' daughters.
Elder sister,
Combining.
not elders. And then age matching. It's not that a small child gets married like that. Elder sister is supposed to have a daughter who would be at the marriageable age with that of the younger brother. There is a possibility.
It creates a lot of complexities in the children.
Yeah. And also refers to the property inheritance. If that is the case with me, then if my property has gone in part of dowry while giving away my daughter in marriage, it must come back to my family again. If I,
Exchange.
yeah, it's a question of property exchange and also women exchange.
Also refers to religious rights.
Yeah,
Who will perform what religious right?
And yeah, with regard to primogeniture, as you stated, it's a typical stated that there is a differential inheritance process in communities.
Youngest also have.
Yeah.
Primogeniture.
And ultimogeniture elements might be there. I do not know. You need to see. Like in Khasi and Garo, particularly in society, there is ultimogeniture.
It's not in Gujarat.
No, maybe. I don't know. Maybe the property is not given, but something else is given. So that is not as a part of property, but as a part of symbol. And one more thing. There are possibilities of property concept in case of tribal different from ours. Magic is a property. Medicinal expertise is a property. So how that gets inherited, whether that goes along the line of lineage or in the line of descent. Whether if somebody is not competent, can be handed over to the next generation. And how the community selects to hand over and pass on that right to exercise that expertise to the next generation. Once that is being given, the man who has given is not expected to practice. That is what in our tribal area, maybe somewhere here also. Yeah, in Hindu pattern, since it's already stated earlier that there are Hindu-adjusted process in case of tribals. With regard to property rights, also there would be something like we can hear and say that's a major share is given to the eldest son, and there is another equal share is made to the sons. What is that?
This is Mitakshar.
Yeah.
Just
They are above.
yeah.
They are
Bhagavad.
above.
What is it?
Is it come to me?
Bhag. Bhag. Don't say bhag. B-H-A-G. G-A. Bhag.
Pronunciation before.
Yeah, it's pronounced difference. Anyway, that the Hindu way of, since the Hinduism process is already got impacted on the tribal, maybe the property is also coming up. Like equal say, whether it is given equal among the genders, and the daughter and the son, whether it is equal. Or if the single daughter is there, whether she is entitled to inherit the property of the father. If it is not, then who else is replacing that? And what is the process of replacement? Who is entitled? Whether there is some institutional process where the community recognizes that he is a person, even if he is not adopted, he has entitled to enjoy the property like that. The property in sense, it may be sorcery, which is secretly done. It may be magic. It may be religious rites, like medicinal, like that. Or it may be something like supernatural power that is believed to have handed down to a particular person, and it's sustained. And there is a rigorous ritual to be undertaken by a person who desires to inherit that property. And it's believed that the God has blessed that child and empowered to cure something for the community, or say, for the benevolent activities of the community. He is empowered. So that has been blessed with the supernaturally. A person who is trying to inherit that from within the community, it may not necessarily mean that it follow the same principle of lineage or descent. But anybody from within the community is competent, provided if he has undergone a rigorous training. And this rigorous practice is too tough. One has to go to the stage of yeah. Now it's open for discussion.
Small.
Yeah.
Now that you have mentioned inheritance, related with your earlier data, and can you classify your data accordingly so that they become more meaningful? This was the question.
Yes.
It has come to Doya impact.
Okay. Now, ego is never static. Ego is never. You have mentioned ego in the middle, so people catch a point. Ego is any reference point.
Yes.
During inheritance, during religious rites, or during any important function, ego is the center.
Yes.
And then you consider level of relationship from that point of view. Suppose somebody dies, who will do what religious rites? Is decided in kinship relationship.
Yes.
That he or she, daughter or son, will perform this rite. If he doesn't have a son, then he will perform the rite. These things are decided, and you have to mention it. So farness or nearness of relationship from ego.
Yes.
That is to be considered as some sort of diagram as to emerge of that relationship, so that becomes meaningful. Preferential marriages and taboo marriages have to be mentioned when kinship relations.
Wrong unions also.
Yes, we have not mentioned it in our kinship. I have to mention. Otherwise, it's incomplete. And finally, from where this sort of land inheritance came among tribals, that came only after Britishers came here. Before that, it was community ownership.
Yes.
The entire land was owned by a community or a village belonging to that community. If I have two sons, I go to chief and say, oh, the land is insufficient for me, can you give me more land? He said, you cultivate your land and your two sons will cultivate that land.
Yes.
Chief will distribute land and the entire landship is community ownership, and you get data for this as well as records for this. Yesterday I mentioned that in 1884 when Sayadi Rao went to Songat area and he called Bilada. Sayadi Rao ne જોઈને બિલડા ઊભી ઉછળીએ ભાગ્યા એમને બોલાવી બેસાડ્યા ગામટા કહીને સંબોધ્યા એટલે ગામટા ખુશ થયા. What was that? That was distribution of land on individual basis. Otherwise, they were cultivating, shifting cultivators.
Yes.
So that also has to be noted, how the notion of property ownership changed, and that has changed kinship relationship pattern also.
I have, when you classify, in fact, somewhere you mentioned about, the way the kin relations in terms of working together and things like this. It's not necessary you need to follow the murders classification or the classification. Because I have used, I tried to look at through kinship, even I tried to do how I can access information through the type of category of relation. For example, I call them as effective kin group. Effective kin group are those who are all parallel cousins, first cousin, second cousin, only patrilineal kind of groups. They come in terms of crisis, they work together and sharing this. But there is another group which is intimate group, which is what you call his cousins, not cousins, it's our mama and like mother's brother and father's sister. They have ritual roles, even among, like I studied among the fishermen. So you should look at their intimate, because they are concerned with everything. Even marriage settlement, mama plays a role, not father's brother or others. So you should look at, that's how I try to look at, because affinal relatives are distant. Some consanguine relatives, because it's a kind of marriages are cross cousin. So consanguine related affines are more intimate than purely consanguine. So you need to categorize based on the effectiveness functions and other things. That will help you in analysis. Okay. Second, also I thought if you apply, there are good kinship analysis. One is, I don't know whether you read What Good Enough's componential analysis. What Good Enough. You look at it, it is available. And then you can also see, because the kind of classificated terminology is based on certain principle of equivalence. And in fact, if you look at even Murdoch's classification, how certain set of people, generation-wise, are called even with certain terms. It's based on principle of equivalence. That means generational equivalence is also taken. No, that is in terms of talking about when you say the difference and the equivalence. These two principles, if you apply, your analysis becomes more clear rather than taking one particular author's or scholar's perspective. So it gives you, you contribute to it. It's not necessary what all they have said has to be sanctified. You can look at some of them. And in terms of even behavioral aspects, avoidance and others. In fact, there is the joking relations exist between old grandmother and grandson, or grandfather and granddaughter. And that is where, because it could be, even in terminology, it could get reflect. So you should look at that, because apart from property. Okay, I just will discuss it. I don't think always
Hello, I'm sorry I wasn't present for yesterday and morning. As far as property, I think it is necessary to distinguish between partible and impartible property. Property which can be partitioned and property which cannot be partitioned. I'll give you one or two examples. Many farmers in villages own mango trees. Now you can't divide a mango tree. So what happens is that only the mangoes are divided. And it's very interesting that from generation to generation, mangoes are distributed among the members of the lineage. There can be also very nasty examples. I will give you. There was one family in which there was they had inherited a beautiful necklace from grandfather. But when it came to partition, it could not be partitioned between two brothers. And one of the brothers' wife was so nasty that I won't allow anybody to get it. So the necklace was divided into 3 parts. So nobody inherited it. Even more ridiculous, I've known this. In villages you have this ganti, which has 2 parts. So there was one family in which there was this ganti. So who will get it? There was a problem. So nobody agreed. Both the brothers and their wives were very nasty to each other. So one brother took one part, the other got the other part. As a result, nobody really got the ganti. And one brother was even more nasty. He took one part and put it at the entrance of his home. So everybody who passes by will know how the partition had taken place. There are innumerable such examples, partible and impartible. This is recognized in law.
Yeah.
I am not talking something which is out of. Even law recognizes the difference between partible and impartible property. And sometimes the judges have to give a judgment. But as you know, in the case of family, it is not necessary that the family members will always accept the judgment given by the judges. This is family life in India.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can close it.
What?
Close it.
I'm not a sociologist, but I was just keen in listening to your comment, if it is possible. How would these relationships of kinship be viewed from feminist perspective?
Let's say a long debate.
Yeah. Some general comment or something you can.
We can have it
Yeah,
outside.
okay.
Yeah, sure. No, I'll finish that.
Okay.
Because I thought that will be longer talk, said more.
In
We can
fact,
discuss price.
this perspective has not yet appeared in the study of kinship. It remains to be seen, but some feminists could study this and then take a critical view. That could happen.
No,
Very first is why female do not get property rights, why female has lower status. All these questions can be raised, and maybe as there is feminist sociology, feminist anthropology also can emerge from this type of critical comments.
Thank you very much.
Chairman,
Just before I end,
let me add one footnote to what I say. That even in the case of land, there can be some plots of land which can never be divided. Which plots which have shrines of ancestors. You have a piece of land. There is a shrine of the ancestor.
true.
That piece of land can never be divided. So you find, I have examined the land record, you see, in one village, since the early 19th century. And I found one piece of land in which there were something like 50 members, you see, owning it.
Yeah.
So one should be very careful in talking about property, whether it is impartible, practical.
Right, thank you very much. Now, this deliberation has expanded to a larger extent, and it starts with birth, but ignored the death.
Ignore the death. Yes.
Yeah, death is most palpable, most sensitive. So therefore, when one tribe is there, a particular land is demarcated either to bury or cremate in that area. That is also inherited. So, if there are a number of clans of the same tribe, there is a division. You cannot encroach other area for burying. This one. If there is more than one tribe,
You cannot even kill animals of that kind.
yeah, that's a totally of that kind, true. And if there are more than one tribe, that gives you a clue which tribe is the earliest settler and which is the latest. And who donated what quantum of land for the burial or cremation, whatever it is. Among the Santals, looking at the stone structure, you can identify whether it is a male or a female or a child or the person who is buried is a sorcerer. Thank you very much. Now I am very thankful to the paper presenter, Mr. Kumar and Dr. Kumar.